Hey guys, welcome back to Boring History Secrets, the channel where curiosity meets chronic drowsiness. If you've ever thought to yourself, I wonder what Japanese ghosts do for fun, then congratulations. You've either achieved enlightenment or insomnia. Either way, you're in the right place. Tonight, we're drifting through lantern light and incense smoke into a world where the dead don't scream, they bow. We're talking about Obon, Japan's centuries-old ghost festival, where ancestors come home for a visit, stay politely for 3 days, and then leave before the weekend traffic hits. Think of it as a cross between Halloween, a family reunion, and an Airbnb checkout with spiritual consequences. Before we begin, a gentle reminder, if you enjoy falling asleep to historical nonsense, go ahead and tap that like button softly, the way a ghost might press an elevator button, and subscribe, so you can join us every week as we tuck history in for the night. Now imagine it, the middle of August, the air thick with humidity, crickets, and quiet anticipation. In towns and villages across Japan, families begin preparing for visitors, dead ones. Graves are scrubbed clean. Fresh flowers are placed. Candles flicker in little glass cups beside framed photos of people who, technically, shouldn't still be attending family gatherings. And when night falls, small bonfires, called mukiebi, or welcoming flames, glow at doorways. Each one is a tiny signal, a warm welcome back to the ancestors who've spent the past year minding their own business in the afterlife. It's beautiful. It's haunting. And it's weirdly comforting to imagine Grandma's spirit politely checking Google Maps to find her old house. Obon isn't about fear. It's about hospitality. And Japan does hospitality better than anyone. The living prepare offerings of rice, tea, and sometimes the favorite snacks of the departed. You might even see cucumbers and eggplants carved into tiny animal shapes. The cucumbers represent horses, so the ancestors can ride swiftly home. The eggplants represent cows, for the return trip, because after a long ghost vacation, everyone deserves a slow ride back to heaven. And somewhere between the flicker of the lanterns and the hum of the summer night, something magical happens. The veil between worlds feels thinner, not scary thin, more like open door policy thin. Children laugh, elders whisper old names, and the air smells faintly of incense and nostalgia. If Halloween is a sugar rush of fear, Obon is a slow exhale of love. No jump scares, no horror soundtracks, just memory, gently illuminated. So get comfortable, because tonight we'll wander through Japan's oldest ghost stories, peek into centuries-old lantern ceremonies, and meet spirits so polite they'd apologize for rattling your cupboards. We'll follow the fires that lead the dead home, and learn why they always leave on time. Welcome to Obon, where even ghosts have good manners. Let's say your ancestors are coming over. They haven't visited in a year. They're technically dead, but you still want to make a good impression. What do? If you're Japanese, you clean. You sweep the house, polish the family altar, and head to the cemetery armed with a bucket, flowers, and the faint hope that no one's ghost will critique your scrubbing technique. That's Obon Prep, a sacred spring cleaning for souls. Gravestones are washed with care, weeds pulled by hand, and incense lit as a fragrant invitation. Families bow, clap twice, and speak softly to the names engraved in stone, as if catching up with relatives who simply live in another time zone. And when the first evening of Obon arrives, the house transforms into a spiritual hotel. The family altar glows with candles and offerings. Rice, tea, and sweets are placed on small trays, along with photos of ancestors who are probably thrilled to be trending again. Some homes even display those cucumber and eggplant animals we mentioned, the spirit rides of choice. You can almost hear an invisible stampede of ghostly traffic approaching, whispering, "Move, move, the bridge is open!" But Obon isn't solemn, it's serene. There's laughter. Children run around with sparklers. Grandparents tell stories about their own grandparents. It's a festival of remembrance, not regret. A reminder that family bonds don't dissolve just because the relatives have become slightly translucent. In many regions, the air carries the sound of bonodori, the traditional Obon dance. People gather in yukata robes, circling a tall wooden tower with taiko drums. The rhythm is steady, hypnotic, a heartbeat echoing across centuries. Each step and clap is said to guide the spirits closer, helping them find the way home. It's not spooky, it's joyful. The kind of joy that makes you forget whether you're dancing for the living or the dead, or maybe both. And then there's the smell. Everywhere, the aroma of burning incense, fried noodles from festival stalls, and something faintly smoky, like time itself exhaling. If the spirits follow their noses, they're in luck. Modern Japan, of course, adds a few upgrades. Some families replace candles with LED lanterns. Others order ready-made Obon meals online, because even ghosts appreciate convenience. Temples live stream ceremonies for relatives abroad, allowing digital ancestors to join in spirit and Wi-Fi. But beneath the screens and schedules, the essence remains: respect. The living make space for the departed, and in return, the departed remind the living how fragile and lovely it is to exist at all. So if you ever visit Japan in mid-August and you see lanterns glowing in doorways or rivers lined with floating lights, remember, that's not decoration. That's a nation welcoming home its dead, one candle at a time. And somewhere, a polite ancestor is bowing in gratitude before saying softly, "Thank you for the tea. I'll haunt quietly." Picture this. The sun melts behind the hills, painting the sky in tired orange. Cicadas scream their last protest of the day, and a slow, golden hush falls over the village. Then, one by one, tiny flames flicker to life along the streets. These are mukebi, welcoming fires. They're not bonfires meant to frighten away spirits. They're porch lights for the dead. Humble beacons saying, "Hey, your old house is still here. We vacuumed and there's rice in the kitchen." Every doorway has one. A little straw bundle burns just enough to signal warmth without making the neighbors think you've joined a cult. Families crouch nearby, watching the sparks rise, whispering names that haven't been spoken aloud in a year. According to Buddhist tradition, the smoke guides ancestors back home from the spirit realm. It's the most efficient navigation system ever invented. No batteries, no updates, no wrong turns. And unlike GPS, it never says recalculating. The first night of Obon feels like time itself slows down. Lanterns glow in doorways. Rivers shimmer with reflections, and the air grows thick with memory and mosquitoes. Somewhere in that blur of heat and nostalgia, you can almost sense them. Gentle presences walking the familiar paths they once knew, pausing under the same trees, remembering the same laughter. But don't worry. Japanese ghosts don't crash parties or rearrange furniture. They arrive quietly, like relatives who brought their own slippers. They stand at the threshold, bow once, and drift inside, careful not to scuff the tatami. In the distance, the temple bell rings. Its deep tone rolls through the valley, announcing that the bridge between worlds is officially open for business. Children peek out their windows. Grandparents smile knowingly. Somewhere, an ancestor sighs with relief. Finally, after a long journey through the afterlife's bureaucratic backlog, they're home. Of course, not everyone lights a fire these days. In Tokyo, where open flames are frowned upon, families use battery-powered candles. It's less poetic, yes, but at least it doesn't set off the smoke alarm, because nothing ruins a ghost's dramatic entrance like a beeping detector. Still, whether made of straw or circuitry, the meaning remains the same. Light the way. Show them they're remembered, and maybe, just maybe, keep the path bright enough so they don't decide to linger permanently. So as night deepens and the mukebi burn low, imagine the scene. Dozens of tiny flames blinking across Japan like constellations on Earth, guiding millions of souls back to their families, soft, silent, and perfectly on schedule. Because even death in Japan respects a curfew. If ghosts had playlists, Bon Odori would be track 1, when the spirits finally arrive for Obon. The living greet them the best way humans know how, by throwing a party that's somehow both festive and respectful. Across Japan, from neon cities to sleepy fishing towns, people gather in yukata robes and wooden sandals to dance under the summer sky. A wooden tower rises in the center of a plaza, lined with paper lanterns that sway gently in the night breeze. On top sit drummers with taiko sticks, their rhythm pulsing like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, ancient. It's not a mosh pit. It's choreography for souls. The dancers move in circles around the tower. Hands sweep, feet shuffle, fans flutter. No one is showing off. No one is competing. It's the most cooperative dance floor in human history. Imagine a flash mob organized by monks. The beauty of Bon Odori lies in its repetition. Every movement is simple, soothing, hypnotic, as if designed to lull both the living and the dead into a pleasant trance. If you squint, it looks like time itself is dancing in loops, and while the rhythm keeps bodies moving, something else stirs. Memory. Each beat of the drum feels like a heartbeat shared across generations. Somewhere in the crowd, a young girl dances beside a grandmother she never met. The air vibrates with reunion, not sorrow. Historically, Bon Odori dates back over 500 years to the Buddhist tale of Mokuren, a monk who used dance to free his mother's soul from suffering. It worked, proving that interpretive dance occasionally saves the day. Ever since, the Bon Odori has been a spiritual thank you note written in motion. Modern Japan, of course, has remixed it. In some towns, the traditional songs have been replaced by pop hits and local mascots. In others, the choreography now involves glow sticks and portable fans. But no matter the soundtrack, the purpose stays the same. To make the spirits feel welcome, and maybe a little jealous of your moves. The energy builds as night deepens. Children giggle, elders sway, and someone inevitably drops a fan and pretends it was part of the choreography. Then, just when the rhythm feels endless, the drumming slows. One final beat echoes through the night, and silence gently returns, like an exhale shared between worlds. The crowd bows to the tower. The lanterns flicker once more, and somewhere nearby, a ghost whispers, "Thank you for the dance." Obon's Bon Odori isn't just performance, it's communication. It says, "We remember you, we're still here, and our sense of rhythm has improved since last year." So if you ever stumble upon a Japanese town square in midsummer, and you hear distant drums and laughter under the glow of 100 lanterns, stop for a moment. You might just be watching a family reunion 500 years in the making. And don't worry if you don't know the steps. Just move slowly, bow often, and keep your hands where the ghosts can see them. When the festival begins to fade and the air smells faintly of fireworks and nostalgia, it's time to send the ancestors home. Because in Japan, even the dead are expected to leave on schedule. This is where the magic of Toro Nagashi comes in, the floating lantern ceremony. Families gather by rivers, lakes, and coastlines with delicate paper lanterns that glow like tiny souls waiting for boarding instructions. Each lantern is lit, a small flame trembling inside, and set adrift upon the water. It's as if the whole country whispers, "Thank you for visiting. Text us when you reach the other side." The sight is breathtaking. Hundreds, sometimes thousands, of little lights drift together, forming a gentle procession downstream, a traffic jam of tranquility. No honking, no stress, just the quiet hum of water carrying everyone home. Traditionally, these lanterns symbolize guiding the spirits back to the afterlife, a sort of celestial ferry service run entirely on candle power. You could call it the original ride-share for ghosts. Reliable, environmentally friendly, and eternally 5 stars. There's a quiet humor in the precision of it all. Obon doesn't just invite spirits, it manages them. Arrival fires? Check. Offerings? Check. Departure lanterns? Check. No wonder Japan runs so efficiently. Even its afterlife has logistics coordinators. But as serene as it looks, Toro Nagashi is also deeply emotional. Families kneel by the water's edge, watching the lanterns drift away until they blur into the horizon. A visual metaphor so peaceful, it could be bottled and sold as instant therapy. Children wave goodbye, not with fear but gratitude. Because here death isn't a curtain. It's a revolving door that swings quietly every summer. Modern life, of course, has added its quirks. In Tokyo Bay, digital lanterns now float alongside the traditional ones, complete with LED flames that never go out, and presumably Wi-Fi. Some people send virtual lanterns online, clicking release while sitting comfortably in air conditioning. Proof that even ghosts have adapted to remote work. Yet somehow the feeling remains the same. The glow, the music, the faint sound of rippling water. It all merges into one sleepy lullaby for the world itself. If Halloween is about ghosts breaking loose, Obon is about ghosts keeping appointments. The lanterns float, the fires fade, and by morning, the ancestors are gone. Back to wherever they came from. Maybe checking reviews of their earthly stay. Peaceful visit, they might write, would haunt again. You'd think that a country with centuries of ghost management experience wouldn't need help from the West. And yet, somewhere between the 20th century and a box of imported candy, Halloween arrived in Japan. Uninvited, overdressed, and holding a plastic pumpkin. At first, it was just a curiosity. American soldiers stationed in Japan after World War II celebrated it privately. Then TV, candy companies, and the unstoppable power of marketing stepped in. Before long, Japanese stores were filled with orange decorations and cartoon bats politely bowing to customers. And the Japanese people, being masters of adaptation, didn't reject it. They refined it. Halloween became less about scaring the dead and more about entertaining them. Costumes appeared in schools, then shopping malls, then in every Tokyo street corner. But instead of haunted houses and jump scares, Japan made Halloween an art form, a mix of cosplay, cuteness, and mild chaos. You can almost imagine the cultural exchange. Western ghosts arrive yelling, "Boo!" Japanese ghosts look up calmly and say, "Please refrain from loud noises. Some spirits are meditating." The contrast is delightful. Halloween, with its sugar-fueled mischief, met Obon with its incense-scented calm, and instead of clashing, they coexisted like a rock concert held in a Zen garden. Soon, Shibuya Crossing turned into a festival of costumed commuters. Office workers dressed as zombies, nurses, anime heroes, sometimes all three at once. But even in the crowd, the politeness persisted. People waited for traffic lights, said sumimasen before taking selfies, and apologized to vending machines they bumped into. Meanwhile, Obon stayed steady, unbothered, timeless, like a grandparent watching their descendants experiment with energy drinks. It didn't compete with Halloween. It just watched the spectacle and murmured, "Cute idea. We've been doing ghost festivals since the 700s. There's something poetic about this cultural overlap. Halloween came with noise and neon. Obon replied with candlelight and calm. One night is about chasing ghosts away. The other is about inviting them home. And somewhere in between, Japan found balance. A place where candy wrappers and incense smoke share the same air. It's globalization, but with better manners. So next time you see a Pikachu and vampire fangs walking past a Buddhist temple in August, remember, you're witnessing centuries of tradition and modern marketing shaking hands. One saying, "Welcome home," the other saying, "Trick or treat," and both meaning, in their own ways, we're still here, together, even in the dark. If Halloween is a costume contest, Kyoto's Hayaki Yagyo, the night parade of 100 demons, is performance art with better outfits. Every summer, the old capital turns its narrow lantern-lit streets into a slow-moving gallery of Japanese mythology. Locals dress as monsters, spirits, and assorted supernatural beings, all marching in organized chaos through alleys that once hosted samurai and poets. It's history, cosplay, and controlled pandemonium rolled into one. Imagine if Studio Ghibli threw a parade and everyone showed up. The concept isn't new. The Hayaki Yagyo dates back to medieval folklore, the idea that on certain nights, all of Japan's spirits, goblins, and demons would leave their hiding places to parade through the city. The living, wisely, stayed indoors, locked the doors, and pretended to be asleep, which frankly is also my personal strategy for dealing with most social events. Today's version is friendlier. Families gather along the streets, children wave glow sticks, and somewhere, an elderly demon adjusts his fake fangs and checks his phone for directions. The costumes range from elegant to ridiculous. A fox spirit in silk robes here, a walking umbrella with eyes there. There's always at least one ghost who clearly misread the assignment and came dressed as a vending machine. But beneath the laughter and photos, there's something profound. A lingering sense that these aren't just costumes. They're echoes of the old stories. The same tales whispered around fires centuries ago when people still thought mountains breathed and rivers had tempers. In Kyoto, myth never really retired. It just picked up a part-time job entertaining tourists. And the parade keeps that spirit alive. Literally. Lanterns sway above the crowd, drums beat softly, and the demons march with remarkable politeness. Even chaos in Japan follows traffic rules. One oni in a horned mask pauses to bow at a crosswalk before proceeding to terrify a small dog. The magic of the Hayaki Yagyo isn't in its size or spectacle. It's in its balance. It blurs the line between the seen and unseen, the living and the legendary. You're never quite sure whether the figure passing you in the mist is a costumed college student or something much older enjoying a night off. If Western Halloween celebrates the thrill of pretending to be something else, Kyoto's Ghost Parade reminds us that, deep down, we're all already a little haunted by our ancestors, our stories, our bad haircuts from the 2000s. So if you ever find yourself walking through Kyoto on a humid August night and see a procession of monsters illuminated by paper lanterns, don't panic. Just bow politely. They might bow back. And if they don't, well, you've just made a very interesting friend. In Japan, even death comes with social rules. Ghosts, or yurei, may linger among the living, but they do so with a grace that would make Victorian manners look sloppy. A yurei isn't your average jump-scare phantom. She floats silently, pale-faced, with hair cascading like a midnight waterfall, dressed in the white robes of burial. Her arms hang limp, her feet hover inches above the floor, and her general demeanor says, "I'm haunting you, but I feel really bad about it." The yurei's job is unfinished business, revenge, heartbreak, or unfulfilled duty. But unlike Western poltergeists who throw furniture, Japanese ghosts prefer subtle communication. A whisper in the hallway. A door that slides open softly at 3 a.m. Maybe your TV turns on, but only to NHK. They follow a strict code of conduct, rooted in centuries of cultural expectations. After all, Japan is the land of omotenashi, hospitality so refined it extends beyond the grave. If you startle someone, you apologize. If you haunt a house, you tidy up afterward. It's not horror, it's haunting with customer service. This sense of restraint comes from Buddhist and Shinto beliefs that emphasize harmony. Ghosts aren't seen as villains. They're emotionally over-invested ancestors. They don't hate the living. They just haven't finished texting goodbye. In older tales, exorcisms didn't always banish spirits. Sometimes they just helped them vent their feelings. Monks would chant sutras, families would offer prayers, and the yurei, satisfied, would drift away peacefully, like someone finally finishing an overdue email. Of course, modernization hasn't erased the yurei's appeal. They've simply rebranded. Today, they appear in movies like The Ring and Ju-on, terrifying audiences while still maintaining impeccable posture. They're the influencers of the underworld, monochrome, moody, and always camera-ready. Somewhere in the afterlife, they're definitely checking their analytics. But what truly makes Japan's ghosts special is their humanity. They cry, they love, they hold grudges. In other words, they're just like us, but with better lighting. They haunt not to hurt, but to remind that emotions, like spirits, don't disappear easily. They linger. And maybe that's the point. So next time you feel a cold draft or see your teacup tremble, don't panic. Just bow politely, say sumimasen, and carry on. It's probably just someone from 1734 stopping by to check if you've been watering the family altar. Because in Japan, haunting isn't hostile. It's housekeeping with heart. Japan has a quiet sort of haunting, the kind that prefers sliding doors to slamming ones. Across the country, tucked into narrow alleys and misty mountain roads, there are tea houses, ryokan inns, and centuries-old homes said to host the most well-behaved ghosts in existence. They don't wail. They don't chase anyone. They mostly vibe. Take the Zenyarai tea house in Kanazawa, for example. Legend says that one night, the owner began hearing faint footsteps after closing time, soft, rhythmic, like sandals brushing tatami mats. He peeked into the room and found a single cup of tea poured, steam still rising, and the cushions slightly indented, as if someone from another century had just finished their nightly brew. No flying plates, no headless apparitions, just a ghost politely keeping the reservation. That's the thing about Japanese hauntings. They have boundaries. The yurei who linger in such places usually aren't angry. They're nostalgic. They miss the clink of porcelain cups, the scent of roasted tea, and the soothing murmur of customers who never looked up from their kimonos. Sometimes these ghosts even help. At an old inn near Kyoto, guests report towels mysteriously folded and candles replaced overnight. Acts of supernatural housekeeping that would make most Airbnb hosts weep with joy. Imagine waking up to find your sheets tucked in by a phantom who probably bowed before leaving. It's said that some spirits remain bound to specific locations not out of torment, but devotion. They loved the world so much, they simply refused to clock out. A tea house built in the Edo period might still echo with the sound of a samurai's laughter or the delicate rustle of silk sleeves brushing against the floor. If you listen closely, you might even catch the faint slurp of an invisible guest who still doesn't understand the concept of inside voice. Of course, modern Japan has its fair share of ghost hunters and YouTubers who eagerly set up cameras in these quiet places. They whisper to the shadows, hold out recorders, and wait for whispers in return. Most of the time, all they capture is the sound of their own snacks. Because Japanese ghosts, ever discreet, know how to avoid awkward eye contact. Still, there's comfort in knowing that if spirits linger, they do so gently. A tap on a window here, a whiff of incense there. Nothing terrifying. Just a soft reminder that time, like good tea, leaves traces even after it's been poured away. So the next time you sip green tea in an old Japanese inn and feel an extra draft, don't panic. It's not a haunting. It's hospitality, with a hint of afterlife etiquette. As we drift further into Obon's midnight calm, we arrive at the temples, where ghosts don't just linger, they meditate. During Obon, the rhythmic chanting of Buddhist monks fills the humid summer air. Their voices rise and fall like waves, each syllable steady as breath itself. It's called the Obon service, and it's meant to guide the spirits peacefully onward, or at least stop them from getting distracted by karaoke bars. Monks see ghosts not as problems to solve, but as guests to console. Through sutras and incense, they remind both the living and the dead that attachment causes suffering, which, if you've ever waited for a package that never arrived, you already understand on a spiritual level. The temples glow softly with candlelight. Families kneel on tatami mats, eyes closed, hands pressed together. Children fidget, elders sigh, and somewhere outside, cicadas buzz like out-of-tune temple bells. It's serene, sacred, and just the right amount of sleepy. And while the rituals seem timeless, they're surprisingly practical. In many communities, monks perform segaki, a ceremony to feed hungry ghosts who wander the earth craving compassion more than food. Offerings of rice, water, and incense are placed outside, a cosmic care package for the spiritually undernourished. Think of it as a soup kitchen for souls. Then comes the taiko, deep drum beats that echo through temple courtyards, reverberating through the yatsun chest like distant thunder. Each strike is a reminder to wake up, not from sleep, but from the illusion that we're separate from those who came before. Every vibration is an invitation to remember. Modern Japan, of course, has updated even this. Some temples live stream their Obon ceremonies, so family members overseas can join via YouTube chat. One Tokyo temple even employs a robot monk named Mindar to deliver sermons, proving that enlightenment, much like your smartphone, now comes with software updates. You can practically imagine an ancestor somewhere whispering, "Finally, a grandchild who never interrupts." But despite the screens and automation, the essence hasn't changed. Obon is still about connection, not in Wi-Fi bars, but in the heart. It's a national meditation, a collective pause to say, "We remember you, we thank you, and we're trying our best not to waste this gift of being alive." When the chanting ends, the last candles flicker. Smoke curls upward, dissolving into the starless summer sky. The monks bow, the families bow, even the ghosts bow. Everyone agrees that humility looks good on all dimensions of existence. So if you ever find yourself standing in a Japanese temple at dusk, and the drums begin to roll softly through the evening heat, close your eyes, breathe, and know that somewhere in that sound, 1,000 souls are smiling. Once upon a time, and by once we mean about 400 years ago, Japan invented the perfect sleepover activity, Hyakumonogatari Kaidankai, or the gathering of 100 ghost stories. It was a game so spooky, so suspenseful, that even the ghosts reportedly stayed up late to listen. Here's how it worked. Friends would gather in a dark room, light 100 candles, and take turns telling ghost stories. After each tale, a candle was blown out. With every story, the room grew darker, the air thicker, and the collective courage significantly thinner. By the time the final candle went out, everyone was sitting in pitch-black silence, waiting to see if something else had joined the party. It was basically the 17th century version of a horror podcast, except no sponsorships, no jump cuts, and the ever-present risk of being politely haunted afterward. The stories themselves were often moral lessons dressed in spectral clothing. Jealous lovers returning as ghosts, soldiers haunted by their own swords, monks learning that enlightenment is easier when nobody's floating upside down behind you. But they weren't just tales of terror. They were therapy sessions for the collective human weirdness we all share. A way to say, yes, life is fleeting, death is weird, and sometimes your teacup moves by itself. Let's talk about it. As centuries passed, Hyakumonogatari evolved into literature, kabuki plays, and eventually Japan's thriving horror film industry. You could say it walked so the ring could crawl out of the TV. Yet, despite its age, the old candle ritual never truly died. Every summer, people still gather in dimly lit rooms or school gyms, telling ghost stories just to feel the chill crawl up their spines. The safest way to flirt with mortality. Because nothing says summer in Japan like sweating from both heat and fear at the same time. The most famous storytellers are calm, slow, and precise. The kind of voices that could lull you into sleep right before describing a decapitated samurai. They pause between sentences, letting silence become part of the suspense, like a musical rest that makes the next note hit harder. It's elegant horror, designed not to shock, but to whisper. And somewhere in that hush, as the final candle flickers and the shadows deepen, you might catch the faintest sound of someone clapping once, softly, as if to say, "Nice story. Mind if I tell one?" So if you ever find yourself in an old ryokan, the lights dimmed, and someone suggests playing Hyakumonogatari, remember? It's all in good fun. Until, of course, you realize there were only 99 people in the room when you started. Not all Japanese ghosts are tragic. Some are just very committed to their jobs. In samurai times, Death was more of a suggestion than a conclusion. Honor didn't end with the heartbeat. It simply switched departments. A samurai could die in battle, realize he'd left something unresolved, and immediately file for ghost duty. The result was a long list of spectral swordsmen who refused to clock out. They lingered in castles, mountain passes, and occasionally old sack bars, still patrolling, still loyal, and still looking incredible in armor that somehow doesn't rust. Take Taira no Tomomori, for example, a warrior from the 12th century who famously tied an anchor to himself and jumped into the sea rather than face defeat. According to legend, his spirit still haunts the waves near Dan no Ura, probably muttering, "Should have used a smaller anchor." Fishermen swear that on misty nights, they hear his voice rising from the water, not angry, just mildly inconvenienced. Then there's Okiku, the servant girl whose story became Japan's most famous ghost tale. After being falsely accused of breaking a valuable plate, yes, one single plate, she was thrown into a well. Her ghost returned to count dishes over and over, never reaching 10. The original obsessive-compulsive haunting. Centuries later, kabuki actors performed her story so often that people started naming their wells after her, which frankly feels like an odd marketing choice. But not all samurai ghosts are sad. Some legends tell of spirits who return to protect villages, warn travelers, or scare off thieves, essentially turning the afterlife into unpaid community service. Even in death, Japan's work ethic never quits. You can find shrines dedicated to these noble ghosts, where locals still leave offerings of sake, rice, and, occasionally, Wi-Fi passwords. Visitors pray for courage, strength, or just better luck with deadlines. Because if anyone knows about eternal pressure, it's a samurai who's been haunting the same castle since 1582. The beauty of these stories is that they blur the line between punishment and persistence. A samurai doesn't haunt because he's cursed. He haunts because he still cares. He's the eternal employee of destiny, punching in every century just to make sure the living haven't completely ruined everything. In the end, these tales remind us that loyalty outlasts life itself. That devotion to family, honor, or maybe just the perfect sword stance doesn't fade with time. It simply changes form. So if you ever visit a quiet castle in Japan and hear the faint ring of steel echoing down an empty hall, don't run. Just bow. You've just been greeted by history's hardest working employee. And if you're very polite, maybe, just maybe, he'll let you clock out on time too. Every culture has a time when the world feels thinner, when the air hums a little differently, when the night seems to remember things the day has forgotten. In Japan, that time is Obon, the season of souls. It happens every August, just as the summer heat peaks and the sky begins to shimmer with cicada song. People say that during these few days, the barrier between the living and the dead softens. Not enough for chaos, just enough for conversation. The country slows down. Factories close. Trains fill with travelers. And millions of people leave the cities to return to their ancestral homes. Tokyo empties out like a ghost town, which, under the circumstances, feels appropriate. It's the one national migration where the living and the dead are technically going to the same place, home. And when they get there, something shifts. The air feels heavier, the nights brighter. There's laughter echoing in old houses that haven't heard certain names in years. There's a faint smell of incense drifting through narrow streets. Somewhere, a grandmother places fruit on the altar and whispers, "Welcome back." Even nature seems to play along. Fireflies shimmer like wandering spirits. Warm rain falls suddenly, as if the heavens are politely participating in the festival. You can almost sense the ancestors mingling nearby, leaning over shoulders, admiring how the family has handled things, or knowing ancestors, quietly judging your wallpaper. The season of Obon isn't about sorrow, it's about belonging. It reminds everyone that life is a relay, not a race, that what we carry was first carried by others. A bowl of rice passed down, a lullaby hummed by someone long gone, a joke still funny 2 centuries later. These are the invisible threads tying the living to the dead. In the countryside, Obon feels even stronger. Lanterns sway on porches, temples ring their bells, and the whole village hums in unison. Like a choir that forgot the lyrics, but remembers the tune. Even the silence feels populated. And then, after 3 brief days, it's over. People pack their bags, blow out the candles, and return to the cities. But they do so with a sense of quiet peace, as if the world, for a moment, remembered its own heartbeat. So when August fades and the nights start to cool, you can almost feel the ghosts settling back into their side of the divide. They leave the living to their noise and neon, taking only one thing with them: gratitude. Because for a few precious nights, they were remembered. And that, in the end, is all any soul ever wants. If there's one thing ghosts love, it's consistency, and apparently, frequent flyer miles. When Japanese immigrants crossed oceans in the 19th and early 20th centuries, they brought their customs with them. Tea ceremonies, rice planting, and of course, Obon. Even thousands of miles from home, they kept lighting lanterns for the dead, proof that remembrance, unlike luggage, never gets lost in transit. Today, if you wander through Hawaii, California, or even Brazil in midsummer, you might stumble upon an Obon festival far from Japan's shores. Temples glow beneath palm trees. Paper lanterns drift across lakes framed by skyscrapers. Taiko drums echo between apartment blocks and ocean waves. It's hauntingly familiar and beautifully misplaced. In Hawaii, Obon has become a full community celebration. Locals of all backgrounds join in the dances, circling temple courtyards under strings of glowing orbs. Grandparents in aloha shirts and kids in yukata move together, clapping to the beat of a drum that has crossed centuries and seas. The ghosts must be thrilled. Finally, a tropical upgrade. In Brazil, Japanese communities celebrate Bon Odori and massive festivals that combine samba energy with ancestral reverence. The result is something that feels less like mourning and more like a reunion party hosted by history itself. Even the ancestors probably tap their spectral toes. There's something comforting in knowing that wherever the Japanese went, they kept space for their dead. Even when the landscape looked nothing like home, lanterns floated not only on rivers but in hearts, glowing softly with the knowledge that distance doesn't diminish memory. If anything, it strengthens it. Technology joined the tradition too. These days, Obon festivals live stream across continents, connecting families who haven't shared a roof in generations. Some lanterns even carry QR codes for dedications, because nothing says eternal remembrance like linking your grandma's spirit to a secure cloud server. But whether the lanterns float down Kyoto's Kamo River or California's San Pedro Bay, their meaning remains the same: a gentle farewell. A promise that love can travel farther than any ship or signal. So when the last light fades into the horizon, imagine it continuing, beyond sight, gliding over endless waves, carrying whispers across the world. A message from one shore to another, from the living to the dead. from Japan to everywhere. Because memory, like light on water, always finds its way home. If ghosts ever needed a visible send-off, Kyoto figured out how to make it spectacular. Each August, as the Obon season draws to its glowing close, the ancient city turns its mountains into messages of light. The event is called Daimonji Gozan Okuribi, or simply Daimonji, literally big letters on fire. Because sometimes subtlety isn't the point. At exactly 8 o'clock in the evening, the hills surrounding Kyoto erupt in flames. 5 giant symbols blaze across the night. Massive kanji characters, and shapes so bright they can be seen for miles. They form the grand farewell, guiding the visiting spirits back toward the heavens, or at least toward the next realm with better Wi-Fi. The most famous is the Dai, meaning great, an enormous character stretching across Mount Nyoigatake. It burns for half an hour, orange and alive, like a glowing doorway between worlds. Nearby mountains ignite in turn, a boat shape, a torii gate, another Dai, and a pair of horizontal lines said to resemble a Buddhist sutra. Each one flares against the darkness, then slowly fades, leaving only smoke and silence. From the city below, people watch in reverence. Some whisper prayers, others sip cold beer and sigh. Children point upward, counting each fiery symbol like stars. It's the perfect blend of solemnity and summer festival, equal parts ceremony and fireworks show, but with fewer lost flip-flops. No one knows exactly when the custom began. Some say the fires date back to the 1600s. Others claim they're far older, a continuation of ancient mountain worship, when flames were messages to the gods. Whatever their origin, they've become Kyoto's signature act of spiritual hospitality. The polite but firm way of saying, "Thank you for visiting, ancestors. Please take your ethereal luggage and depart in an orderly fashion." Of course, the modern world can't resist efficiency upgrades. Drones now photograph the spectacle for global audiences, and safety teams patrol the mountains to ensure no rogue ghosts violate fire codes. But the essence remains untouched. Each glowing symbol flickers for just long enough to remind everyone watching that memory burns brightest when shared. When the final embers fade, the city exhales, temples fall silent. Rivers still shimmer with drifting lanterns. Kyoto's ghosts, satisfied with their annual cameo, ascend quietly, probably bowing one last time before vanishing into the smoky dark. And down below, a million humans stand under the night sky, eyes reflecting the last of the flames, thinking, what a beautiful way to say goodbye. If there's one universal truth about spirits, it's that they appreciate snacks. During Obon, Japanese families transform dining tables into miniature feasts for the departed. Offerings, known as ozan, are placed on home altars, neat arrangements of rice, fruit, and sweets designed to make the ancestors feel both honored and well-fed. It's not about extravagance, it's about care. Because in Japan, love often comes plated. Each item has meaning. Bowls of rice symbolize sustenance. Green tea represents comfort and continuity. Seasonal fruits, peaches, melons, persimmons, add a burst of color, because even ghosts deserve good presentation. And then there are the famous cucumber and eggplant animals again. The spirit rides introduced earlier. Tiny legs made of toothpicks turn vegetables into temporary taxis for the dead. Cucumber horses for quick arrivals, eggplant cows for leisurely departures. Even the afterlife, it seems, values good transportation options. In some regions, families cook the deceased's favorite dishes. If your great-grandfather loved grilled eel, it's on the table. If your great-aunt adored pudding, prepare two, one for her. one for the inevitable child who accidentally eats it first. And yes, the ghosts are watching. Politely. What's touching is how these offerings extend beyond food. Some families place personal items, a photo, a comb, a pack of cigarettes, little reminders of the quirks that made someone human. It's less ritual and more care package to eternity. And somewhere, in that flicker of candlelight, the boundaries blur. You can almost sense a familiar presence sitting beside you, smiling faintly at the smell of miso soup. Temples, too, overflow with offerings during Obon. Rows of incense burners glow like constellations. Visitors bow, clap, and ring bells that echo softly into the evening. You can feel the gratitude hanging in the warm air, thick as summer humidity. Even mosquitoes seem hesitant to bite during these moments, as if they understand the sanctity of snack time. Modern Japan has modernized this, of course. Some online memorial services let you offer digital fruit or virtual rice balls with the tap of a button. It's convenient, sure, but you can't help thinking the ancestors might prefer the real thing. Ghost or not, a holographic melon just doesn't taste the same. Still, the heart of the gesture remains. Food is love, and love never spoils. Each plate, each candle, each quiet thank you whispered over the altar is a reminder that remembrance isn't grand or glamorous. It's intimate, a shared meal across centuries. So if you ever feel a sudden chill while setting the table, don't worry. It's not a draft. It's someone pulling up a chair, grateful, silent, and probably hoping you made enough rice. In ancient Japan, Obon was illuminated by firelight, prayer, and the occasional drifting lantern. In modern Japan, it's illuminated by LEDs, Instagram filters, and a suspicious number of convenience store promotions. Because while the world changed, Obon adapted, gracefully, of course. These days, you can buy everything you need for your family's ghost reunion at 7-Eleven. Lanterns, incense, miniature offerings, even battery-powered candles that flicker convincingly enough to fool a mildly distracted ancestor. It's spirituality with customer service hours. In the cities, where space is tight and attention spans shorter, traditions have evolved to fit apartment living. Balconies become mini shrines, candles glow safely behind glass, and neighbors nod understandingly when they spot a cucumber horse riding past the potted plants. The ancestral commute continues, just with better city planning. Temples, too, have modernized. Many now use digital altars, flat-screen displays that scroll family photos beside serene images of lotus blossoms. One Tokyo temple even installed an RFID system that tracks your ancestors' urn like a library book. You scan your card and, ping, a glowing compartment slides open to reveal your loved one's resting place. It's hauntingly efficient. Even the prayers have gone online. Obon ceremonies are live-streamed for relatives abroad. You can donate incense through an app, attend a virtual service, and even send a ghost emoji in the chat. If the ancestors ever get Wi-Fi up there, they'll be delighted, or mildly overwhelmed. And yet, for all its modernization, the soul of Obon hasn't changed. When you strip away the gadgets and glowing screens, it's still about the same thing it was 1,000 years ago. Connection. Families still bow. Children still giggle at flickering lights. And somewhere in the static hum of a Tokyo apartment, a ghost still pauses to admire how tidy everything is. There's even a growing trend of corporate Obon, companies holding small remembrance ceremonies for deceased founders or employees. It's respectful, if slightly surreal. Imagine your HR manager leading a moment of silence for someone who once invented the stapler. Still, it's very on brand for Japan, where even ghosts are included in the annual budget. And as the city lights shimmer through the warm August haze, the difference between lantern glow and street lamp blur fades entirely. It's all illumination, electric or eternal. Because no matter how modern life becomes, the Japanese still make time to look back, light a candle or plug one in, and say, "Welcome home." Wi-Fi passwords the same as last year. Of course, nothing stays purely sacred for long in the age of social media, not even the spirit world. These days, Obon isn't just celebrated, it's curated. Every summer, rivers across Japan fill with paper lanterns, and timelines fill with photos of them. Hashtags like Jakjas Obon, Spirit Season, and Jakjas Ghosts welcome bloom like digital incense. The afterlife has officially gone viral. The images are stunning. Hundreds of glowing lanterns drifting across dark water, each one mirrored in perfect stillness. They look like constellations that decided to take a vacation on Earth. The kind of picture you double tap, then immediately feel bad for turning someone's grandmother's memorial into aesthetic content. But that's the paradox of the modern world. Sincerity and spectacle forever holding hands. For many, sharing an Obon photo isn't vanity, it's reverence, a way to preserve fleeting light in a place where things never fade. The internet. It's memory insurance for the digital age. Temples have noticed, of course. Some now set up official photo spots, complete with signage that says things like, "Capture the light of the ancestors. No flash, please." There's even an annual photography contest for best Obon shot. Somewhere, a ghost is probably judging composition. Influencers join in too, though respectfully. Fashion bloggers post yukata selfies captioned with poetic reflections like, "Honoring those who came before." Also, outfit from Uniqlo. Food vloggers review Obon sweets, describing mochi as ethereal yet chewy. And travel creators produce cinematic drone footage of lanterns floating through Kyoto, followed by links to discount hotels. Even so, something strangely beautiful happens online. People across the world, many who've never been to Japan, see these images and feel calm. They feel that same quiet melancholy that Obon has carried for centuries. Because whether you understand the ritual or not, you understand the glow of a single light moving away from shore. It's universal. And somewhere in the scroll of likes and hearts, maybe the ghosts are pleased. After all, isn't remembrance just another form of storytelling? If someone in another country pauses, smiles, and whispers "wow" at the sight of a floating lantern, then the ancestors have reached immortality through pixels. So the next time you post a lantern photo, go ahead and tag it. Obon. Ancestor goals. Eternal content. Because if the internet has taught us anything, it's this. Even ghosts appreciate good lighting. For centuries, Japan's ghosts have floated through folktales with the same signature style. Long black hair, pale skin, white robes, and the unmistakable energy of someone who hasn't had a good night's sleep since the Edo period. But like everything else in Japan, even the afterlife eventually got a rebrand. Meet the modern Yurei. Still spooky, still committed, but now cinematic. It started quietly, with stage plays in the 1700s. Kabuki actors discovered that audiences loved a tragic ghost with impeccable posture. White robes fluttered, hair swayed dramatically, and special effects involved invisible strings that yanked performers skyward. the 18th century version of CGI. Ghosts became celebrities. The more elegantly you floated, the better the reviews. Then came the 20th century, and film. Suddenly, Yurei weren't just legends, they were movie stars. From Kwaidan's haunting silence to The Ring's unforgettable TV exit, Japan gave the world an entirely new standard for horror: the quiet scare. No screaming violins, no jump cuts, just slow, inevitable dread, like realizing you sent a text to the wrong person, but from beyond the grave. These cinematic ghosts became icons. They terrified global audiences while staying true to ancient aesthetics. That same flowing white robe, that same unblinking stare. Somewhere, a 17th century kabuki actor probably muttered, "Called it." But fame changes everyone, even the dead. By the 2000s, the yurei had entered pop culture fully. You could buy Sadako keychains, watch ghost-themed anime, or visit haunted house cafes where waiters in spectral makeup served drinks with names like Phantom Latte. The supernatural became stylish, a mood board with bangs. And yet, beneath the memes and merchandise, the old meaning lingered. Yurei still embody that ancient tension between love and loss, regret and release. They are the emotion you never texted back, the apology that never found words, the silence that still hums after the music stops. In other words, the world's most relatable ghosts. So if you ever wake at 3 a.m. to find a pale woman standing silently at the foot of your bed, don't panic. She's probably not here to harm you. She's here to remind you that even sorrow can be elegant, and that bangs are eternal. If the living have learned one thing from Japan's ghosts, it's that the afterlife loves a good tune. And nowhere is that clearer than in the country's favorite pastime, karaoke. During Obon, some communities end their festivals not with prayer, but with music. After the dances and the lanterns, as the night cools and the air hums with leftover incense, people gather around microphones beneath paper lights. They sing softly, to each other, to the stars, to anyone listening from beyond. It's called Obon karaoke, though most people just call it a really emotional evening. Songs drift through the night. Old Enka ballads, nostalgic pop hits, a few heartfelt renditions of Let It Go that the ancestors politely pretend to enjoy. The point isn't performance, it's connection. Each note becomes a small offering of memory, a melody bridging centuries. Picture it. A grandmother in a floral yukata clutches the mic, singing the same tune she once danced to with her late husband. Children clap along, phones recording, unaware that this simple moment is exactly what Obon was made for. Somewhere nearby, a ghost hums the harmony, slightly off-key but sincere. In temples, monks sometimes chant sutras rhythmically, their voices rolling like song. It's easy to imagine the spirits listening from the shadows, swaying gently. The line between worship and music has always been thin. Both are ways of saying, I remember. Even city. Bars get in on it. During Obon Week, karaoke lounges fill with after-work singers dedicating songs to everyone who came before. It's half reverence, half release. By the third verse, tears mix with laughter, and the bartender quietly slides over another drink labeled for courage. The truth is, karaoke is Japan's secret ritual of remembrance. It lets people express what words can't. You may not know how to tell your ancestors you miss them, but you can absolutely belt out a ballad about impossible love at 11 p.m. and hope they're listening from the next world's VIP room. So if you ever walk past a glowing doorway on an August night and hear a trembling voice singing under the warm hum of lanterns, stop for a moment. That's not just someone doing karaoke. That's a conversation across time, carried by melody, sustained by memory. And who knows, if the chorus sounds a little fuller than before, it might be because the ghosts joined in. Every great tradition eventually gets a business model. And Japan, ever the master of turning sentiment into service, has made remembrance both heartfelt and surprisingly profitable. During Obon, the economy hums like a contented shrine bell. Supermarkets stack aisles with incense, lanterns, and prepackaged offerings that range from humble rice cakes to luxury fruit baskets so expensive even the ancestors might raise an eyebrow. Every item whispers the same gentle sales pitch. Honor your loved ones in style. There are companies that specialize entirely in ancestor care. You can hire someone to clean your family grave if you're busy. You can order subscription incense, yes, really, so you never forget a ritual. One service will even live stream your offerings, complete with soothing background music, because nothing says eternal devotion like 1080p resolution. Travel agencies join in too. They offer discounted Obon homecoming packages, encouraging urban workers to visit their hometowns. Airports fill with families clutching flowers instead of passports. Highways glow with headlights heading toward memory. It's capitalism, yes, but wholesome capitalism. The kind where profit smells faintly of sandalwood. Temples benefit as well. They host annual ceremonies offering personalized prayers for a small donation, sometimes even with printed receipts, in case your ghostly relatives need proof of purchase. It's strangely bureaucratic, but endearing. In Japan, even the afterlife runs on efficiency. Tech companies, never far behind, have entered the remembrance race too. AI memorial apps now allow you to chat with simulations of deceased loved ones, their personalities reconstructed from old texts and voicemails. It's comforting, eerie, and weirdly convenient for getting recipe advice from your late grandmother. And then there are the Obon pop-up stores. Yes, pop-ups for the dead. From Tokyo to Osaka, temporary shops appear selling everything from LED candles to limited edition spirit snacks. Imagine buying pumpkin mochi shaped like tiny ghosts, while an automated voice politely reminds you to cherish impermanence. Some might find this commercialization strange, but there's something beautiful in it too. Because behind every sale, every glowing lantern and temple ticket, there's the same desire to remember, to participate, to keep a 1,000-year-old conversation alive, even in a world now lit by screens instead of stars. In the end, the business of remembering isn't cynical, it's practical. Love, after all, is hard to monetize, but easy to merchandise. And if buying a new lantern helps someone pause long enough to think of the ones they've lost, then maybe, just maybe, the ancestors approve, preferably with a receipt. While Tokyo hums with convenience store lanterns and automated prayers, Japan's countryside celebrates Obon the old-fashioned way, quietly, tenderly, and at least 2 centuries behind on Wi-Fi. And somehow, it's perfect. In the mountains of Nagano, in fishing villages along the coast, and in tiny farming towns tucked between rice paddies, the festival unfolds like a dream from another lifetime. The air smells of cedar and summer rain. Fireflies flicker through bamboo groves. Somewhere, an old transistor radio plays enka music that sounds suspiciously like longing. Here, there are no LED candles or QR-coded memorials, just real fire and real faces. Families walk down gravel paths to the local temple, carrying offerings balanced carefully on trays. Children chase each other with sparklers, while elders light incense and bow toward the soft outline of graves framed by moss and moonlight. Even the dogs seem to tread softer during Obon. These places don't need reminders to slow down. They already move at the pace of memory. When the evening bell rings, it echoes across rice fields like a heartbeat rolling through the valley. The sound tells everyone, living and dead, that it's time to come home. In some villages, the community gathers for the Bon Odori under open skies. No neon, no amplifiers, just the rhythmic thump of a taiko drum and the shuffle of sandals on packed earth. A few old paper lanterns sway from bamboo poles. The dancers' movements are slower here, each step carrying generations of muscle memory. It's less performance, more prayer. And when the night deepens, families sit together outside, sipping barley tea and watching the stars. Someone points to a bright light and says it's an ancestor waving goodbye. Someone else nods and murmurs, "He's early this year." The air feels soft, the laughter gentle, the ghosts unhurried. There's a phrase often used to describe rural Japan, natsukashi. It means nostalgic, but more tender than that. The warmth of remembering something you never truly forgot. That's what Obon feels like here. Not a spectacle, not an event, just continuity. Quiet proof that the past still lives in the rhythm of crickets and the glow of fireflies. When dawn arrives, mist settles over the fields, erasing footprints, blurring the edges between worlds once again. The villagers pack up the lanterns, sweep the grounds, and head home to breakfast. By then, the spirits have already left, traveling slowly along invisible paths back to wherever peace resides. No drones, no hashtags, no sound but wind through grass. Just the living, the dead, and the comfortable silence between them. Because in rural Japan, you don't need to believe in ghosts. You just need to listen. In most parts of the world, the hardest part about guests is getting them to leave. But in Japan, even the dead know when it's time to go. After 3 days of food, music, and polite haunting, the Obon festival ends the same way it begins, with ceremony, gratitude, and spectacular organization. Families prepare for departure night like seasoned event planners. Candles are lined up, incense refilled, and the cucumber horses and eggplant cows are repositioned for one last commute. It's called the Okaribi, the sending fires. Lanterns and small bonfires are lit to guide the spirits back to the other side, their flames swaying gently like farewell waves. If the Mukaibi at the start of Obon were porch lights that said, "Welcome home," these are porch lights that say, "Drive safe, text when you arrive." And the ghosts, being Japanese, do exactly that. Figuratively, of course. They bow, gather their metaphysical belongings, and set off toward the invisible horizon, leaving behind only the faint smell of incense and the inexplicable comfort of an empty but peaceful house. It's touching how considerate the dead can be here. No dramatic exits, no rattling chains, no refusal to move on. Just one final nod, a spiritual version of, "Thank you for the tea. I'll see you next year." In some regions, families float small paper boats down rivers or set lanterns afloat on lakes. Soft lights carried by current, symbolizing the soul's serene journey home. It's a farewell ritual so gentle it could make even the living want to leave on time. There's wisdom in this rhythm. Obon teaches that goodbyes don't need to hurt. They can be graceful, scheduled, and even beautiful. Life and death coexist in perfect etiquette. Enter politely, exit politely, and remember to leave no unfinished business or open snack wrappers. And so, as the last night deepens, you can picture the scene. A family kneeling together, watching the lanterns drift away until they're just tiny dots against the vast dark. Someone sighs softly. A child yawns. The ancestors, satisfied, fade beyond sight, punctual to the end. By morning, the fires are ash, the offerings are gone, and the silence feels somehow warmer than before. Because in Japan, the dead never truly disappear. They simply step back into the mist until next summer, when the porch lights will glow again. The festival has ended. The lanterns are gone, the fires have cooled, and the ghosts, ever punctual, have returned home. Now Japan wakes up to the most peaceful hangover imaginable. In cities and villages alike, the morning after Obon feels like the world exhaling. There's still a faint smell of smoke in the air, like the echo of memory itself. The cicadas buzz lazily, less frantic than before, as if even they attended too many ceremonies. Temples stand quiet, but not empty. You can almost feel the hum of gratitude lingering between the wooden beams. Families sweep up ashes and flower petals. Candles are replaced with fans, offerings packed away, and life resumes its steady rhythm. But something subtle has changed, an invisible softness in the air, like the house itself is still sighing from the night before. Somewhere, an elderly woman folds up the family altar cloth and mutters, "See you next year," to no one in particular. Somewhere else, a child waves at the empty space near the door, just in case. And in Tokyo, a commuter pauses before boarding a train, feeling an inexplicable calm that has nothing to do with caffeine and everything to do with remembrance. For 3 days, Japan danced with its dead, and now the living walk a little slower, speak a little softer, and smile for no clear reason. Because even when the festival is over, its rhythm lingers. It's in the way incense smoke curls toward the ceiling, in the way evening light filters through shoji screens, in the sudden sense that the world is vast and kind and very, very temporary. Modern life rushes back in soon enough. Emails, deadlines, and traffic jams reclaim their thrones. But deep down, something in the collective heart stays steady. A reminder that the line between the living and the gone isn't a wall, but a doorway that opens every summer for those who remember to knock. And so, the country returns to normal. Shops reopen, trains fill, and convenience stores quietly swap Obon sweets for Halloween candy. The cycle continues, because memory, much like Japan's seasons, always loops back around. By dusk, the air will cool again, and perhaps, somewhere in Kyoto, a single ember will still glow faintly in the ashes of last night's fire. Not enough to see, but enough to feel. A whisper from the other side saying, "Thank you for remembering." And here we are, at the quiet edge of Obon. The lanterns have floated away. The fires have dimmed. And even the spirits have gone home to rest. All that remains is the hush that follows every story worth telling. You've wandered with me through temples and tea houses, past mountains of fire and rivers of light. You've met samurai ghosts who couldn't clock out, grandmothers who never missed a festival, and monks who managed customer service for the afterlife. You've seen that in Japan. Even the supernatural runs on a schedule, polite, punctual, and deeply sentimental. And now, as night folds itself over you like a cotton kimono, I want you to imagine this. a soft breeze moves through bamboo leaves. Paper lanterns sway gently, their light fading to gold. Somewhere, incense smoke curls upward like a sigh, drawing the last line between memory and dream. A distant temple bell rings once, low, round, final. If Halloween is a night of fear, Obon is a season of forgiveness. It's the world reminding itself that love doesn't end. It just changes address. That even ghosts need company sometimes. That goodbyes, when done with grace, can sound a lot like lullabies. So, as you sink deeper into your pillow, think of the fires that guided the spirits home, and the quiet kindness of a people who bow to both the living and the dead. Remember that the same wind brushing against your window tonight once carried lantern light over Kyoto, incense over Tokyo, and prayers whispered on the lips of countless families who looked up at the same soft moon and said, "Come home." And now, as that moon drifts high above you, the ancestors are already smiling. They've eaten well. They've been remembered. They're content. They whisper, "Arigato," and fade back into the night, leaving only peace in their wake. Before you fall asleep, one final reminder: if you enjoyed this midnight wander through haunted history, go ahead and like this video gently, the way a ghost might pat a cat. And subscribe, so next time, when we drift into another ancient mystery, you'll already have your lantern lit. Until then, may your dreams be soft, your tea be warm, and your ghosts always polite. And here we are again, somewhere between dream and daylight. The candles have melted down to tiny puddles of wax. The wind outside is lazy, brushing past the paper screens like a cat that's forgotten why it came into the room. Even the ghosts are tired now. You can almost hear them gathering their things, folding their white robes neatly, checking that no incense ash is left behind. In the distance, a single temple bell rings. It doesn't hurry. It never does. It just keeps time for everything else that refuses to. Somewhere beyond Kyoto, the mountains still whisper with smoke from last night's fires. The word "dai," the great symbol of farewell, has faded into the dark, but its glow lingers in memory. A reminder that endings aren't erasures, they're gentle translations. If you listen closely, you can hear the faint rustle of history itself, thousands of Obon nights stacked on top of one another like pages in a book too heavy for one lifetime to read. Every flame, every offering, every whisper of Okerinasai, "Welcome home," still hovers in the air, long after the lanterns go dark. That's the secret of this festival. It never really ends. It just becomes quiet enough for you to miss it. Imagine now the lanterns, hundreds of them, floating not just down rivers, but through your mind, drifting past the small worries that cling like cobwebs to the corners of your thoughts. Each one carries something away. A doubt, a mistake, a moment you wish had gone differently. The river takes them all, gently, kindly, without judgment. Because if Obon teaches anything, it's that forgiveness moves on a current too. The ghosts aren't frightening, they're teachers. They show us that impermanence isn't cruelty, it's design. It's the reason the fireflies appear for only 1 week. It's the reason the moon looks different every night. It's the reason your tea tastes best just before it goes cold. In some ways, the dead have it easier. They've already learned to let go. We, on the other hand, cling to our stories, like actors who keep peeking from behind the curtain to make sure the audience is still there. But the spirits don't perform. They just exist, softly, completely, without needing to be seen. So as you lie there now, eyes heavy, mind wandering, think of Japan at night. Think of the smell of incense winding through old wood and rain-damp earth. Think of the soft crunch of sandals on temple paths. Think of lanterns drifting over dark water like glowing dandelions, each one carrying a thank you. Not a plea, not a cry, just gratitude. Somewhere, a monk snores quietly after chanting too long. Somewhere, a child dreams of her grandmother's laugh echoing through a house that no longer exists. Somewhere, a pale woman in a white kimono, a yurei, stands by the river, watching the last lantern fade. She doesn't weep. She just smiles faintly, as if to say, "Good job, everyone. Same time next year." And maybe that's the best philosophy we'll ever have. Not heaven, not hell, not even enlightenment. Just the idea that we keep showing up, year after year, lighting fires for those we miss, telling stories for those who forget, and dancing in circles under the same wide, forgiving moon. Obon, Halloween, life itself. They're all versions of the same thing. A rehearsal for goodbye. Repeated until it no longer hurts. So let the ghosts rest. Let your heartbeat slow to match the rhythm of the temple drums that still echo faintly in the night air. Let the past tuck itself in neatly behind you. You've done your remembering for now. All that's left is sleep. And before you drift away completely, one final thought. Somewhere, in a quiet corner of the afterlife, your ancestors are probably watching this video on a spectral laptop, nodding approvingly and whispering, "At last, someone made history boring enough to sleep to." So go on, traveler. Close your eyes. The lanterns are waiting to guide you home. Not far away, just deeper inward. Until next time, may your dreams be long, your ghosts be gentle, and your Wi-Fi mercifully strong. Good night.